Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Nick here from the Real Heroes Show. I am joined today with two special guests. One of them is a longtime friend, and another one is a family friend, so to speak. We're here to talk about the newest Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man No Way Home. Full disclosure, there will be spoilers out the yin yang. If you haven't seen it yet, I don't know what's wrong with you. Not to say that there is anything wrong with you, but you should definitely go see it as soon as possible. It is a box office killer and a domestic smasher, and probably going to hit $1 million internationally fairly soon, which is amazing. So we're going to kick off with my buddy Alex here. And again, spoilers. You are warned for the second and last time. Alex, go ahead and kick us off. What'd you like about the movie?
Hey everybody, I'm Alex. It was an amazing movie. I really like how I think the MCU listened to the fans. I think that is the biggest thing, really. You know, it was all over social media. Oh, well, what if they put, the OGs of the live action in there? What if they put Tobey? What if they put Andrew?
Yeah.
No, it can't happen. People shooting it down. And it's just like, why can't it happen? They're taking the villains from their universe, So I think just it's kind of like off topic, but remember Sonic when they were going to drop that version of what they thought live action Sonic looked like. People were just they hated that,
Yeah.
and they corrected it, and now it already has its second movie coming out. So I think they really just gave life to not only continuing Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but now even bringing back Andrew Garfield's, what we should have gotten long ago, Spider-Man 3 of the Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield.
Right. Yeah. It was rumored, right? We got a lot of rumors about them making an appearance here, whether or not it was going to be true or not. With another character that was rumored to make his first MCU appearance after coming from Netflix, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well. But I know for the sake of when I was in the theater when I saw it this past Saturday, every time one of the rumored characters actually made their official appearance, the entire cinema, the entire theater just erupted in cheers, clapping, yelling. I was partaking in it as well, because it was exciting, and you guys are much bigger Spider-Man fans than I am, and so I can't even say that I'm the biggest Spider-Man fan here, and I absolutely loved this movie, and we'll kind of give like our ratings about this movie and how it compares to other Spider-Man movies like towards the end. But yeah, like it was great to actually, even I think we expected it to happen, but because it was official, it just made it that much more special. Um, so what else did you think about the movie in terms of the story, the development of Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Spider-Man?
Man, so Tom Holland, gosh, I think he's definitely going to be a good contender for the next Iron Man and his universe. Even though we lost Tony Stark, he now has the power. Now, one thing I don't know the answer to, and it's one of my questions is, um, he went ahead and let Doctor Strange do his thing at the end, and now nobody remembers who Peter Parker is. Not even Happy, and I really want to see what they're going to do with that. I'm very curious to see. Rumor has it that in Hawkeye, there might be a cameo appearance. I hope, fingers crossed. I would love any little bit of Spidey I can get, even if it's just like 5 seconds, like it was in Civil War. It's not, you know, wasn't that little, but I'm really curious to see what they're going to do, because not even MJ or his best friend are going to know who he is, and it's does he still have Edith? Does he still have that power of Tony Stark? And um, man, there's just so much they can do now. There's so much, and not only in his universe, but also in Tom Hardy's universe of Venom. You know, that would be great to see Andrew Garfield and Tom Hardy, or even Morbius. They could play that into the same Sony universe, and it would
Yeah.
just make a great movie.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot they could do here, and really, I am curious for the sake of all moviegoers, and again, this is one of those moments I think that we can think back to when the first Spider-Man movies were coming out with Tobey Maguire, and realizing how how well perceived Spider-Man is on film, and not just because he was always one of the biggest superheroes around the world, if not the most popular around the world. I think Marvel did like a poll like years ago, and he was like number one, which isn't surprising. But
He's. I'm
he,
sorry.
no, you're good, you're good. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, so like he's been consistently like Marvel's face.
Right,
Like
right,
he's like how
exactly.
Superman is DC's face. Spider-Man has consistently been Marvel's face.
Right,
Wolverine's kind of crept up like recently. Obviously, he was in everything, but Spider-Man
right.
has been like the go-to guy for Marvel for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if anything has been proven, even going back to, I mean, I think his whole trilogy for Tom Holland has been rather well, like, and like it's been rated high enough that people like what he does. But he's been talking a lot on social media about who should be included. Like, I think Gwen Stacy should be in there, or Spider Gwen. Obviously, like I
Oh,
think
has he
Matt.
been saying all that?
Yeah, he's been real talkative about a bunch of
I
stuff, but
I don't want Spider-Gwen in the MCU only because like Sony gave us the Into the Spider-Verse, which to me is
Yeah,
still like I can't explain it. Like so Nowhere Home, No Way Home, and Into the Spider Verse are like, it's like who's number one, who's number two. Like I will give No Way Home the best live action Spider Man, but I can't say that I'll give it the best Spider Man movie. Period.
yeah,
And I don't know, maybe it's just because
yeah,
Into the Spider Verse
yeah,
hit me on so many different levels. The music, the colors, the characters, the story, everything just had this like perfect flow and symmetry, and it just like the what's up danger at the end that gets me every single time. Amazing
yeah,
music, amazing
yep,
visuals. I'm a huge sneakerhead, so he's wearing the OG Chicago Jordan ones.
yeah,
That's like that for me, like
yeah.
that
They brought
scene in
culture
itself, it
into
was
it.
just it was amazing. And
yeah,
then to see what No Way Home gave us, it gave us that nostalgia. It gave us everything that we wanted as fans of the previous sequels. It paid homage while also pushing forward its own narrative and its own story. It gave us, it gave us fear, it gave us sadness, it gave us hope. It gave us questions. And I
Hmm.
think that they did it real. I think they did a really, really great job at presenting this, this, culmination of Tom Holland's saga. We
yeah,
get that this is Spider-Man just starting out. With all the things that happened, inconsistencies and all, we see that this is a
Totally.
young Peter Parker who is learning the ropes. And by the end, we see that he's become Spider-Man, or that he's more comfortable being Spider-Man. He's not just, in Tony Stark's shadow. He's not just a reserve Avenger. He's someone who can take on the responsibility that comes with being an A-tier hero.
yeah,
And I think what's great about it is, spoiler, after Strange resets, essentially everybody's memory and effectively erases Peter Parker from, history.
existence, yeah,
It gives us the true Spider-Man, because a lot of people were upset that we had Spider-Man as young Tony Stark, or, you know, Iron Man Jr. This gives us the Spider-Man that, fans from, the beginning to, the 80s, the 90s, before, say Civil War in the comics, it
yeah,
gives us the Spider-Man that we all knew and loved, the Spider-Man who couldn't get on a superhero team, who was alone in everything he did. He didn't have allies or friends or backup. He didn't have a support structure, essentially. He always had Aunt May and then the various women that he loved, but as a superhero, he was solely isolated. He didn't have, the Avengers, because they just didn't felt like their styles mesh. Like, yeah, when there was an issue, and Spider-Man showed up to help, they're like, thanks for the help, but we got it.
Right.
You know, remember he tried to join the X-Men, and they're like, you're not a mutant.
Yeah.
And he tried to join the Fantastic Four, and they're like, Fantastic Four, you know, we don't have room for a fifth. We're not the Fantastic Five. So we get to see him.
Oh, when he had the bag on.
Yeah, the amazing bag
fantastic
man. You know, that's when he.
Yeah.
But we
Yep.
get to see him at his bare bones minimum. Like, he doesn't have the Stark tech anymore, as you saw when he's swinging around in his classic, you know, red and blue. He doesn't
Yeah.
have, you know, the support of the Avengers. You know, the world still knows who Spider-Man is, and they still know he exists, but no one knows who Peter Parker is. So it effectively erases the companionship and the camaraderie that he had with the Avengers, because they knew who he was. Now they don't. They just know, oh, he's Spider-Man. He's helped us out, you know, in the past, but they don't know the man behind the mask, so they don't have that emotional attachment. So it's like how Thor said, like someone made a comment about, it's like how Thor said when he saw Hulk in Ragnarok, hey, we're work friends.
Yeah, friend
and
from
that's what they'll
work.
give. Like, that's how they'll see Spider-Man is, okay, we're not buddies, but we can be work friends. So it shows him, you know, on his own, not without all the big backing that he had. You know, he doesn't have the costume maker, you know, the thing that made the materials and everything that he used to, you know, save Doc Ock. He doesn't have any of the high-tech gadgets anymore. He's just got a suit that we effectively see him make, you know, and his own, you know, Peter Parker ingenuity. And I think that's great that if they do a new trilogy, it'll be him getting back to his roots. It'll be the Spider-Man that people wanted in the beginning, you know, and not Tony Stark Jr.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you touched on a lot of good points with everything you mentioned. In my opinion, I think as a huge Spider-Man fan, you know, I love the content. I don't think I'm somebody who compares one movie with another and says it's better than the other. Like, I think Into the Spider-Verse is original. I think they need to keep making more of them. It works. It's great. I love it's original. It's just that comic aspect. I don't think there's any other movie like it. Forget Spider-Man for a moment. I think animated comic, DC, Marvel, there's no movie like it. So I think it works, and they need to keep doing it. And I'm happy that they're doing one where I think I saw what was it? Which Spider-Man variant was it? It was the
2099
variant, 2099.
Yes, dude, I'm so
That's
psyched
super
for that.
awesome.
Full disclosure, I still haven't watched this trailer for Into the Spider-Verse 2. I do know that Oscar Isaac is taking over the role of Miguel O'Hara.
Yep.
Again, I was a fan. I read Spider-Man 2099 when Marvel was trying to get more edgy. You know, they had Hulk 2099, Spider-Man 2099, Punisher 2099. I read quite a few of those, and I actually really enjoyed Miguel O'Hara. I thought he was a good character. So I haven't watched the trailer for Into the Spider-Verse 2, but
no, it's gonna hype you up. You're definitely going to.
I don't think
be ready.
it's like only like a minute long if it's the same one, if it's the one I'm thinking of, but yeah, major hype. I mean, it immediately made me think of the old 1993 Flair cards, the Marvel cards that we used to collect.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people might not know what those are, but the 93, 94, 95 Flair cards were just like, the artwork was just so legit. And I remember what Spider-Man 2099 looked like at that moment. And I was like, this is the coolest Spider-Man costume ever. Even at such a young age, but even then, he's like, Wolverine's still my favorite. I mean, I have him permanently tattooed on my freaking leg, but so bearing the Spider-Mans aside, let's talk villains for a second, because the villains in this, you know, Into the Spider-Verse were great. But in this movie, it was interesting because it was all villains from Tobey's and Andrew's movies. We didn't really have a villain that Tom was fighting or was new to, except for maybe the layover effect from what Mysterio did in revealing his identity. And so it was like the identity crisis was his enemy in a way.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure that they were getting the original actors for Sandman and Lizard.
Dude, I had no idea that Thomas Hayden Church was going to be Sandman. When I saw that, I was like,
dude,
"Oh my god!"
He looked the fucking same too.
Yeah.
It looked like they went straight up to like back. Full disclosure. Out of all the fucking
2007
movies,
or whatever it was,
the Spider-Man 3 movie, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3, I fucking hated that shit. Like,
I
don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, like
I don't want to talk about it.
That Venom was piss poor. Like,
first off, Topher Grace should never have been Eddie Brock, dude. Like in the comics, Eddie Brock is like 6'5", 260,
jacked.
like he's jacked.
I just remember,
and they give us
Parker.
Skinny. Oh god,
even Tom Hardy doesn't really fit the persona of Eddie
He's too
Brock.
short.
Yeah,
but I mean, I like him.
Make it work. Yeah, it's a good filler.
Acting wise, he makes it happen. Yeah,
I mean, like if you want to be real, like Hugh Jackman is like 6'5", and Wolverine's supposed to be like 5'3". So
post credits though, the post credits of the symbiote, we don't really. I don't think Tom Hardy needs to be in Tom Holland's MCU.
No, he's not.
Doesn't need to be.
So he's not going to be, because Tom Hardy got blipped back to his universe at the end,
right?
But apparently, so I still haven't watched Venom: Let There Be Carnage, just because I was supposed to go see it, but my girlfriend got sick and we had tickets for it, and I just never got a chance to see it. Now I know it's on like Amazon Prime and everything.
Shit, no, you are missing the post credits for that.
It got spoiled for me, so I know, and it makes sense because that's why he's in the MCU at the end. But apparently, it's explained that the symbiotes, like they have like the parallel universe versions of themselves have their own like consciousness.
Yeah.
So like when a part of his suit gets left in the MCU universe, it develops its own consciousness. Yeah. So it's not going to be the same symbiote that we see in the Sony Venom universe, which is weird because since they blipped him back, I'm wondering how is Vulture going to be in Morbius? Because we saw the scene where Vulture is talking to Dr. Michael Morbius. He's like, "Hey, let me get your card." It's like, well, if he got blipped back,
right.
Like, how is Vulture going to be in it? And I did really enjoy in the movie how we got 5 of the 6 of the Sinister Six.
Right.
I think that was actually really cool. But Willem Dafoe, oh my God, I loved and hated that man so much.
Again.
I loved him and I hated him. And like I was telling Nick the other night, at the end, when Tom Holland is fighting him, I was like, yo, his hands were E for everybody because they could all he was beating the brakes off of them, and it was lovely to see. I'm not gonna that was the Spider-Man I wanted, because I've there have been comics where Peter, he's not restrained, and I think Andrew Garfield said it the best when he was talking about he stopped pulling his punches. He got dark. It became a time where he was so disillusioned that he stopped pulling his punches. And we've seen in comics what happens when Peter stops pulling his punches. And to see Tom Holland Spider-Man stop pulling his punches, and I was like, he's going. I was literally in the theater chanting, "Kill him!" I'm like, "Kill him! Kill him!" But I mean, it goes against everything that Spider-Man stands for.
Right?
He's in the league of, I won't kill you, but I'll damn sure give you a huge medical bill. In Batman, Daredevil, and Spider-Man, they won't kill you, but they'll damn sure fuck you up.
I absolutely loved every freaking moment of this movie. This was an edge of your seat kind of movie, like when you feel like you already know what's gonna happen, although you've never seen it, just because you've been so hyped up for that moment. Like, what if, and there it is, and it's like, oh shit, and it's just
I'm sorry to cut you off, but can we give?
No, you're good.
Can we give my boy Charlie Cox the round of applause he fucking deserves? Because 5 minutes into the movie, I'm like, oh my god!
Yeah, you see his cane, and I was like, oh my god! Yes! I was like,
when they're sitting there, and they're like, how did you do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
Bro,
he
had Tom Holland. He had Peter Parker shook like.
Bro, and that's another disappointing thing. The end result of what Strange had or what Peter had Strange do. Now same with him. Same with now he's not going to know who Peter Parker is, and that was very cool. That was a very awesome moment. Like, yes, that that everybody in the theater they were They were very happy, and
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
even though we had like a few, like literally a minute of it,
Yeah,
2
but
minutes.
it was so great because there are rumors, and then it's confirmed. Like everybody's like, "Oh, Charlie Cox is going to be Daredevil," and Kevin Feige's like, "Yeah, if we do Daredevil, Charlie Cox is Daredevil."
Yeah.
And people were
Oh
assuming like,
yeah,
"Oh yeah, maybe he'll show up as Peter's lawyer." And it's speculated, but when it shows up, and then that scene in and of itself was just so great, you know. And then like how he's talking to Happy, you're gonna need a really good lawyer. After he tells Peter he's a really good lawyer after catching the brick, I thought it was masterful. I loved how all the characters played off of each other.
Yeah.
Like the
yeah.
scene in the lab where they actually do the meme.
Oh yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
started dying. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was one of the best parts. And a lot of people were suggesting, and the big rumors were like, "Oh, that's Matt Murdock that visits Peter when he gets taken to the police station," and I was like, "It's not." But that's fine. Like it didn't, like his arm didn't like line up
The
right.
guy looked a little he was a little portly. So like if
Yeah,
you look at his stomach, he's like, yeah, that's not Matt Murdock. No,
yeah,
that's not
and
him.
I was like, you don't see a cane at all. Like
Yeah.
there are missing pieces to the puzzle,
Hmm.
and I always kind of suspected Marvel being Marvel is like they'll do like the fake outs, right? So I was kind of wondering where, if we do see Matt Murdock, where would we see him? And I didn't really think that we'd see him in the apartment there,
Like
right?
literally 10 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, that's soon. I thought it
Yeah.
was going to be like hour into the movie, then we see Matt Murdock come in. Um, but man, it's like he just kudos to just Charlie Cox killing that role, because it's like he never stopped portraying
Yeah.
Matt Murdock. Like he
Yeah.
just picked it
Oh,
up and was
picked it
like,
up. It was like riding
just
a bike
the
for him.
look, like the just the mimicking
The
as
feel.
if he is blind, and like
Listen, man, watching
He shot
Daredevil,
that brick, bro.
I like if I didn't know any better, I'd have thought Charlie Cox was actually blind.
oh,
He was
100%.
great. I'm like, wait, he's not
100%.
blind?
Yeah, like he can actually see.
Yeah.
Like, did he just act with his eyes closed the entire time with the
Yeah,
mask
it's like
on?
Yeah.
Like,
It
even like the
was
mouth and everything. It's just like you could
yeah,
just
like,
what this guy's acting.
it
and
was
and I think what really to me sparked the chance and percentage that he was going to be in it even more was the fact that Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin was finally made that hard appearance via picture on a phone
yeah.
in episode 5 of Hawkeye, which I think we're going to see him tomorrow, or as I post this on Wednesday, we'll have seen Vincent D'Onofrio actually be in the white suit as Kingpin in the finale for Hawkeye, which
I feel like I don't think he's gonna be in the finale.
you don't think so?
I think the picture was
Was
the
enough.
confirmation, and it was enough to let us know that he will be back.
No,
But
I think he's gonna be in it. I
I
think we're
mean,
gonna see him tomorrow.
I'm fine with it either way,
probably
right?
will.
Like to me, I'm like, even if it's just the picture was enough. I'm like, that is hard proof, 100% evidence that he is going to be in the MCU at some point in
Yeah.
time in
Oh,
a
100%.
bigger role. And honestly, since we're talking about Spider-Man and Kingpin had beef.
Oh yeah, dude, Spider-Man Kingpin was originally a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
Until Frank Miller took over writing for Daredevil in the 80s, and he revamped Daredevil and made him, made the hand Elektra.
Right.
Daredevil was a ninja, and then the
Right.
Kingpin became his biggest enemy. It
Main,
became
yeah.
his, like, outside of the hand, it became his nemesis. Like with the tearing down of Matt Murdock and destroying his life professionally and as Daredevil. There was actually a time
His
where
father.
Spider-Man had to, dress up as Daredevil. I believe it was Spider-Man to dress up as Daredevil to help
Yes.
Matt, like, shake the whole stigma, like to turn people's, belief that he was Daredevil, around. So I really love the dynamic. Like I've loved how Daredevil, and because people talk about, like, Spider-Man has a lot of bromances.
Yeah.
Like Deadpool for some reason is infatuated with Spider-Man,
Yeah.
but his best friend is Johnny Storm. And then a lot of continuities. It's also Bobby Drake, Iceman. They are really good friends. But a lot of people don't talk about the Spider-Man Daredevil like bromance, and that they've helped each other out a lot in their personal and professional lives. So I was really happy to see that Marvel was honoring that. Like, I mean, obviously we don't have we have Deadpool now, but we don't have Johnny Storm, we don't have Bobby Drake.
Right.
But the first bromance that they give us, or allude to, is the Spider-Man Daredevil, which I think is really cool. And I think if Daredevil does get his own series, I think we might see Spider-Man show up every now and then, or make a cameo in whatever aspect. But I thought it was just really well done.
Yeah, 100%. And look, for the sake of the future and what they could do with Spider-Man, I would like to see like simultaneous characters, even in separate stances where, let's say Tom Holland signs on again, because I think people were probably talking in his ear, the right people, to say like, you want to keep doing this, kid.
Oh yeah.
I'm
I
sure
don't think he's
Robert
gonna
Downey Jr. will
stop.
tell him like, don't stop.
I don't think he's gonna stop.
No.
He probably enjoys the hell out of it. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun gig.
Especially after this, I'm like, bro, like you realize you're like number
Made history.
3 for box office openings.
Yeah, you just made history, kid. Like
the thing about it, though,
dating your cast member, you're literally like,
Yeah.
bro is balling right now. He is
the
young.
thing about it, though, is like, so like I can understand what he's talking about. Like when you look at a lot of these actors who have gotten famous from playing, these Marvel characters, superheroes in general, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them have already been established. Robert Downey Jr. had a prolific acting career before he became Iron Man. Iron Man essentially revitalized his career. Actually, in my opinion, it was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because if there's no Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, he doesn't become Iron Man.
That's true.
Scarlett Johansson already had a prolific acting career, Tom Hiddleston, he was a stage actor, he had done some British television, I think, but he still had a career in and of itself. But while they have done these superhero roles, they've done other roles, and they've created like a legacy for themselves. Tom Holland hasn't really done that. Like Spider-Man was probably his first major acting gig, and he's branched out and done other movies, but he hasn't really solidified himself. But I can understand him as an actor not wanting to be like say Daniel Radcliffe and Harry Potter. Like that's what he's known for. Yeah, he got a lot of money playing Harry Potter, and he's never gonna have to work another day in his life. But anytime people see him in another movie, in something else, they see Harry Potter, unless he makes some really weird like cameo, like in
I don't think it's gonna be like that for him.
I'm saying that's what I think he's worried about. Like he doesn't want to be typecast. He wants to as an actor, like if I'm an actor and I want to build credibility for myself, I don't want to be seen as just this one character. Like I don't want every time someone goes to cast me, they see he's Spider-Man,
Yeah,
and
sure, that's very valid. But I think either way, for example, we talked about Uncharted, and he has that opportunity now. He's playing a video game character, and that's badass. He's playing it, now.
How many video game movies don't have a really good track record? They really don't.
I'm honestly expecting it to bomb. I really am. I
don't think it's going to bomb, but I don't think it's going to be the next like springboard for him.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening. Like I love the Uncharted games, and I get what they're doing. Young Tom Holland, young Nathan Drake, and then we get an older Sully who's not too old to the point where he can't be the focus of the movie, or at least a large portion, and then we can see them age and grow up to the the video game characters that we've come to know and love. You've got room for growth there, but video game movies are notorious for being bad. Like there are not very many good video game movies. There might be 2, and the 2 movies are
Tomb
Raider and Tomb Raider Cradle of Life, and Tomb Raider Cradle of Life was not very good.
Yeah,
Angelina Jolie is not, but look at I don't think even with movies that don't end up doing well, you have some actors that they're going to continue to work, or going to continue to act, or going to continue to get roles. I think if there's rumor has it, if there's a grapevine thing, or if even a clip of him saying, "Oh yeah, I'm done playing Spider-Man. I think that the trilogy is it for me," and I really appreciate it. He's gonna come back. Come on, there was a I saw a clip of a paparazzi following Tobey Maguire, and I'm trying to keep my voice down because out of all the people who haven't seen the movie, my girlfriend hasn't.
Okay.
But he was ignoring paparazzi. They really kept it on the DL. I really love how, like, look, maybe I'm such a Spider-Man fan to the point where I'm just not a tough critic right now. I appreciate that they gave us closure, not just nostalgia. They gave us closure. They didn't just give us villains. They teased us with villains. People were saying, "Oh, they CGI'd Andrew and Tobey out of the trailer." Oh, the lizard got hit in the face. And it's just there's so many different things I think that just really made this, in my opinion, I'll say a 9. I'll say a 9.5 out of 10. I won't say a 10 out of 10, even though I really want to. And I think it is I kind of just want to say it's a 10 out of 10 just because, they did it for me.
Mhm.
I can't remember a movie. I remember being a kid watching The Shawshank Redemption and being mind blown throughout the whole thing.
Listen,
that's the closest I got to being like,
listen, it
less
doesn't
than 10
matter.
years old.
Like I don't even have cable, but like if the Shawshank Redemption is on, it doesn't matter
watch
what
it.
part of the movie it's on.
You're
That's what I'm
watching it.
watching.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
Right. And
That's like a 10 out of
appreciate
10 movie right
yeah,
there. You know
that's
what I mean?
It
an
is.
amazing
So,
movie.
It is. And it's going to be timeless. It doesn't matter how old that movie
Yep.
gets. But I think
100%.
they just gave, man, and another thing to mention. There's so many different things I think that they could really just play off of, from the symbiote to like Noel. They could totally bring, like, that'd be like an Avengers level threat. That'd be like Thanos.
Noel is
level.
no fucking joke, man. Noel is like God
It's too
tier.
the thing.
But
I
it's
mean,
too
like,
early. It's way too early for him
I
to be.
understand.
But it
Well,
could
no, it's not
come.
necessarily
It
too
could
early
come.
because if you think about it, like with Venom being out there, and we now know about the symbiotes and Noel's story, like the God in Black or whatever, just
Yeah.
being like the most prominent story in Marvel.
Yeah.
And it's relatively new.
Exactly.
But we are getting
it could definitely work.
and we are getting
I
a
agree.
Gore the God Butcher from
Yes, in Guardians 3. Or no, Thor Love and Thunder.
Thor-
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I'll be really curious about that because if he has the Necro Sword, then it's confirmed that Null exists, and it's probably only a matter of time until we actually see him in some capacity. But so let's talk about our ratings for this movie because I'll quickly say obviously everything with the Spider-Mans were great. The banter was great. Just their interactions, the way they boost themselves up, the way they interacted with each other, their serious talks, their humor, everything about that was just impeccable. Like I wouldn't have changed a thing for the most part. In terms of villains, I have nothing bad to say. Obviously, Willem Dafoe was like the leader and carried the villains. Alfred Molina.
I don't know, man. Listen, I think Jamie Foxx does not get enough credit because he had some of the best lines in that damn movie.
In terms of lines from villains, Jamie Foxx had the best. I will say for Alfred Molina, he had that redemption.
Yes.
And obviously speaking of redemptions, we get to see Andrew Garfield make his redemption. And there were people behind me going, save her, please 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 save her. And I was like, he's got to. I whispered to Amira, Alex's sister, and I was like, oh my God, this is his redemption arc right here. Yeah. And I love how they did that because obviously as terrible as The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, that was one of the worst parts about it was the whiplash. And I was like, son of a bitch, man, like, come on. But this time he didn't shoot the web. He actually caught her.
And then, I thought that was a very, I was like, they gave him the closure he needed.
100%. Yep.
I felt like after, because, he obviously showing up in the movie is after Gwen dies, he's made a lot of mistakes and he's so insecure about being Spider-Man because he couldn't save her dad. He couldn't save Uncle Ben. He couldn't save Gwen. The people that he loved, that he cared about, they all kept dying in his arms. And the fact that he got to save Tom's MJ, somebody who he had already told us that he loved, he always wanted to have brothers, that he got to do that and he got to be the hero that we all wanted him to be. He got the win,
Yep.
I think that was really important to him. And I think that if he does come back and we do get Amazing Spider-Man 3, that we get to see how doing that small thing, gives him hope. He starts to pull his punches again. He's not disillusioned and jaded anymore, because he got a win that he desperately needed. And then we get to see him evolve as a hero, not necessarily being the brooding, I'm going to, stop pulling my punches and hurt people because I'm hurt, but we get to see him evolve and maybe become, a better person, and he's not so tormented. He's not so, disillusioned by the loss, and maybe he'll be a little bit more optimistic. And I hate optimism. I'm jaded, but it would be nice. I'd like to see him get his redemption arc, because I feel like the Amazing Spider-Man, it was the middle child. It got it got overlooked. Sony literally made the movie so that they can keep the rights to Spider-Man. And in doing so, we got I liked Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I liked his Peter Parker. I think that Tobey was the better Peter. Andrew was the better Spider-Man, because we got the joking, we got the smart aleck quips, we got the witticism, we got the athleticism. And I think Tom was the better of both, because while not being the overly nerdy Peter, you get a nice mixture of that awkward, nerdy teenager, and then you get the hero who doesn't know what he's doing. But I felt like he was the better mixture of both. So we got Tobey better Peter, Andrew better Spider-Man, Tom the best mixture of both. So
I agree. And speaking of the three of them, I thought that just kind of popped in my head. And this is more so talking about what comes next, but I'm gonna save that thought, because I want you to give us a rating for this movie, if you can.
I can't give it a perfect score. I did have a few gripes. I could definitely say a solid 9 out of 10, maybe a 9.5 out of 10, because it did heavily lean on nostalgia, but at the same time, it did it the right way. It gave us what we wanted, while also giving us things that we didn't know we wanted. And I think it also, not only did it tie up a lot of loose ends, but it gave us something to look forward to. It's the perfect, I can say it's the perfect ending of a trilogy and beginning of the next. I think it did a lot of things well. When they killed Aunt May, I'm not gonna lie, I cried.
It was heavy.
Misty eyed. It was real. It gave
dust
me
in that theater.
it gave me everything
on.
that a movie should, or that I feel like a great movie would. It gives you highs, it gives you lows, it gives you tragedy, it gives you triumph. It was just, I give it a solid 9.5.
Yeah, and that's kind of right where I am. So let's talk about maybe. I'm not going to call it a gripe, and I'm not going to say what could have been better, but the parts that like kind of we were talking off screen before, and like the plot armor parts, right? Like obviously, D, when you and I were talking over the weekend, it sucked that Aunt May died. It was sort of like a superhero trope, but obviously necessary to happen, because there is no Uncle Ben in this MCU for Peter. So it is required for Aunt May to say the line, with great power comes great responsibility, and then Andrew and Tobey are like completing his sentence, because they know what it is, and that's what pushes Peter to that part where he needs to be, where we're expecting him to be from the comics, and him having nothing, literally having no way home at that point, at the end. And again, I didn't want it to happen. I understand why it kind of needed to happen. I still think, well, I'm gonna say I still think. Do either of you think, and then anyone who's watching, do you think it could have been avoided? Do you think there could have been something else they could have done in order to have Peter get to that point?
I do.
I don't.
Okay, so that's good that you guys have different perspectives. Like, hit me.
Okay, let's start with you.
Okay.
Please.
So anyone who's a Spider-Man fan knows that Spider-Man has dealt with a lot of loss. Not just Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy dying, especially at his hands, because it was argued for a long time that, oh, she was dead when Goblin threw her off the bridge, and then people argue, no, she died when he whipped her with his webbing and her neck snap. So we all know him to have loss, but what people don't talk about is his support structure. Uncle Ben died, and it essentially made him who he was. it kept him from using his powers for financial gain, fame, fortune, whatever. But Aunt May kept him grounded. She was the only constant in his life. When everything was going bad, she was always there for him. She was his North Star, so to speak.
Mm.
Now, they didn't put Uncle Ben in this movie, and I 100% agree with that decision because we've already seen Uncle Ben die twice. Well, three times if you're a comic book fan.
Right.
And we know that that is what starts him on his path, right? But it's also redundant. Like, okay, it's the standard superhero trope. We have to have a great tragedy in order for the hero to find his calling. The thing about it was, when Marvel established the Tony Peter dynamic, it replaced Uncle Ben effectively. So you have Tony, who is Peter's idol, who is Peter's mentor, who sees something in him that nobody else saw and took him under his wing. You see him as the biggest influence in Peter's life die, right? We saw when he died how Tony reacted in Endgame or in Infinity War, right? It broke him,
Yeah.
And he gives up his life because of his love for Peter, right? That's essentially what he does. He helps with the time heist to bring Peter back, right?
Yep.
And then he dies. Effectively, Peter watching the man he loves, the man he idolizes, the man who literally saved his life die.
Yep.
And then we see everybody asking, like in Far From Home, people, are you in the spot? Are you in the new Iron Man? Are you going to take up for Iron Man? Whatever. He already had that person who he lost that shaped who he was going to become to an extent. Like, yeah, he was still lost and he didn't understand who he wanted to be, but the loss was already there. He already had the path to go forward. I think killing Aunt May was it was like it was like not necessarily shock value, because we needed somebody to say with great power comes great responsibility, because we'd never heard it before. But at the same time, now he literally has nothing. He has nothing to keep him on the straight and narrow. He has nothing to keep him with his eye on the prize, essentially. He's got no friends. He's got no family. He's got no loved one. So what is he fighting for? Who's going to ground him? He doesn't have that anymore. So I feel like they kind of did him a disservice in killing Aunt May. Yeah, it was shock value, and yeah, it definitely got people talking. But at the same time, like, now it's like, what does he have? What is he doing? What is he building towards? What is he fighting for? What does he stand for? Like, he can essentially lose all touch with reality because he has no one in his personal life keeping him as Peter Parker. Like, we saw how Andrew Garfield was talking about, he stopped being Peter Parker, more and more, and just was Spider-Man. And that's when he became disillusioned and he stopped pulling his punches. He, was absorbed by Spider-Man because he had nothing as Peter Parker. That's what we're seeing with Tom Holland now. He's got nothing as Peter Parker, which could potentially lead him down a really dangerous path. So they could have done without it.
Yeah. Alex, what do you say?
I think it was totally necessary. I think I like what they did with the Ant-Man. I think I'm by no means a tough critic, but at the same time, I can really give credit when it's due, and I think they kept this story very original throughout. They introduced Tom Holland, Spidey, and Captain America: Civil War.
Right.
And we never got to see Tom Holland Spider-Man become Spider-Man. We never got to see him get bit by the spider. We never got to see him be that awkward kid with really no friends in high school. He's still. I think he's a better Peter Parker than, like you said before. I think he is better than both Tobey and Andrew. He's not too cool, not like skater kid, but not too geeky and 2000 Nickelback vibe, kind of like, that's what we're getting, when we think of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. But I mean, he was the first live action. I think it's way a hell of a lot better than that first live action Hulk that we saw. But there are a lot of things that I can appreciate. There's a lot of things I think that could have been done better. But there's a lot of things that I think were original because that's just how they made it. I can appreciate it because, again, it's just more content, and they're keeping to the roots, like MJ, Michelle Jones, and it's not the redhead MJ we got, but she works, or Ned. He's not Harry Osborn.
But it's Michelle Jones Watson.
Yeah, this is true.
It's very true.
Hey. Still, not Mary Jane Watson, not that redhead, like if we want to be super geeks and say, oh, it's not true to the comics, it's whatever. It's original. Yeah. It's we don't have Oscorp. We don't have Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn, Willem Dafoe coming into that is like Tom Holland doesn't know who the fuck Green Goblin is or who the fuck the Osborns are.
There's no Oscorp.
But there's just so much that they really they took all those loose ends and they gave us closure, and they also gave us introductions to so many different things they could just play off of, and I appreciate that. As far as Aunt May, I get what you're saying. Iron Man being that father figure that he lost, and I agree with you. But like you also said, Spider-Man, all the variations of his story is that's one of the things I think that has always made me appreciate Spider-Man is he's gone through so much loss and always kept himself strong and superhero and still that funny, person behind the mask when he's fighting his enemies, he's a smart ass with them. And there's just so much they could do with it. There's so much. Oh my gosh.
My question to you though is this though. In all those iterations, right? Spider-Man has always had Aunt May, right? He's always had not necessarily. There are two instances in the Spider-Man comics where if we go comic continuity where Aunt May possibly died. One of them is back in
where she died.
No. In the current 616 continuity, there's two examples that I can remember off the top of my head where it was believed she died. One was when Doc Ock had hidden her and they thought that she was dead. Like there was also a thing where he was gonna marry her. That was weird. Don't get me started on that. But anyway, that was one instance where where he thought that she was dead. It turns out she wasn't dead. She was hidden away in a casket somewhere with oxygen. Fine. The second instance is obviously when she gets shot after Spider-Man reveals his identity in Civil War. Kingpin hires somebody and they go after Spider-Man and they accidentally shoot Aunt May. He breaks into fucking prison and beats the ever-loving dog shit out of the Kingpin and tells him that when she dies, you die.
Yep.
Then that brings us to the awful Brand New Day storyline where he makes a deal with Mephisto to save Aunt May by effectively erasing his marriage to Mary Jane and the history they've shared for the past 30 years.
But you're bringing up a lot of good. You're bringing up a lot of good instances. She's there. She's still there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. She's like of all the things he's gone through, and he's gone through a lot of pain and suffering. Like
but
Flash Thompson.
Has Aunt May.
Yeah, he's still like she was what kept him essentially grounded because he had women in his life, but he had Betty Brant, he had Gwen Stacy, he had Mary Jane, he had Liz, he had Liz Osborne, he had whoever.
Yeah.
Liz
Allen.
I'm
not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you, but at the same time, I just don't see why they can't do what they're doing. I don't like in all these variations. Can we agree that Aunt May was never the Aunt May they had MCU Aunt May? Like,
I mean, it depends. Like, it depends. I mean, like in all the variations, essentially, she doesn't know that he's Spider-Man, but at the same time, like if you're a person. Like say, like think about it like this. Like
even having Iron Man as a mentor, that's original.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I hated that, but I mean, I agree. But that's what I'm saying. Like it took over the Uncle Ben aspect.
But you like it though.
No. So I don't like that he was Iron Man's mentor or mentee because he technically becomes that in Civil War. He starts working for Tony Stark. But the thing about it is. What they did, and the reason why I respect and understand it is because nobody wants to see Uncle Ben die so many times. Like nobody wants Uncle Ben to be cast by Martin Sheen or some big name actor to get killed in like the first 15 minutes of the movie. We're tired of seeing that. So I understand.
Could care less, to be honest with you, I love Uncle Ben, but bro, I just want to.
Uncle Ben, Uncle Ben is like if you're a fan of Green Lantern, like in the 90s, they called it the girlfriend in the refrigerator, syndrome, where they kill a main character. Like she's not necessarily a main character, but she's there, or that person is there specifically to move the plot of the hero forward. So it's a random person who in the hero's life makes a lot of sense, like the love of his life or a beloved uncle or father figure, and they kill him off so that the hero decides to become a hero. It's literally called the girlfriend in the refrigerator syndrome. It happens. It's a tired trope that is just been done to death. And what I thought was a breath of fresh air, even though I don't like how Peter is essentially Iron Man Jr., was that they gave him a mentor, someone to teach him, and someone who became a father figure to him, who in and of itself had their own story. Like Iron Man had his own trilogy. He had his own story arc. He had his starting as a shitty person and his growth and evolution. And then we see him pass on that information to the next generation. So it's essentially a passing of the torch. So it's not essentially girlfriend in the refrigerator syndrome, because he was a fully developed, evolved character. And when he died, it hurt not only Peter, but it hurt us because we watched him grow. So we have that emotional attachment to him. Yeah. He's not just somebody who's emotionally attached to this character that we like, who becomes the main character who dies off screen. We got to watch him grow, and then we got to watch him become the hero he wanted to be, and then we got to watch him sacrifice himself for the greater good while essentially protecting his son in Peter Parker. So it's the passing of the torch. He had that, like that person who was essentially one of the biggest influences of his life died. Why does he need the only other person who throughout the rest of the history has kept this man grounded? Like, think about it like this. If you get a bunch of power, if you just real quick, I'm sorry, but if say you get a bunch of power, right? You essentially become a god. There's nobody like you. What keeps you grounded? What keeps you attached to humanity? The people you love. If the people you love are gone, what's to stop you from becoming some all-powerful dickhead of a deity? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's essentially what we get with Spider-Man. Aunt May kept him grounded. Without Aunt May, he could become Venom. Not necessarily with the symbiote, he could become that lethal protector where he murders people.
Sure, and that's a fair perspective. And I'm not, again, I'm not saying that can't be said to, be the case. But if I just take comparables, and let's say I take the Tobey Maguire's trilogy of Spider-Man, I don't think it doesn't pan Aunt May when he's losing himself, and
but it does.
Who
does he go to see when he's losing his powers?
First movie, Willem Dafoe attacks Aunt May, scars her, makes him and now he has MJ. But he still didn't want to kill Willem Dafoe. Right?
He was about to kill him after the Aunt May. After he blew up Aunt May's house and she was in the hospital, he wanted to kill him. Yeah. He goes to see her in the hospital. And she talks him like she's talking about being a good person, this, that, whatever. So if Aunt May had died, yes, he would have killed Goblin.
I think so.
100%. Yeah, sure. But again, Uncle Ben died in that universe. Aunt May didn't need to die, right? And then same with Andrew Garfield's universe. Uncle Ben didn't die the right way. Due to comics, he died in an original way. They made it where he died at a gas station. That is not. It was true to how in the first live action it was. He was doing a wrestling gig, and cops said, "Why didn't you stop that guy?" He's like, "It's not my gig," and the funny old comic quip way. But point being, that was original. There's just I don't think there's any set way in how they have to do it. I think Into the Spider-Verse, with Miles Morales, it wasn't the Uncle Bay Aunt May way
but that was actually true to the comics. But that was actually true to the comics, and also, but that's what I'm saying. It's the same way, like how Peter in the MCU universe loses Tony and becomes the hero that he becomes. Miles becomes Spider-Man to honor Peter because Peter gets killed. Miles never meets Peter ever. Peter gets killed, and it's broadcasted that that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse, he's a national hero. Everybody already knows that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. But in the comics, in the Ultimate Universe, Spider-Man gets killed, and then they find out he's a kid. Everybody's like, he was just a kid. And that inspired Miles, because Miles's first
Just-
costume is literally a Halloween costume of
I'm
Spider-Man.
just saying without Aunt May. I'm just saying with Aunt May. I don't think Aunt May is the set in stone piece that defines Peter's
But
character
no,
development.
but
I
no,
really
but
don't
what I'm
think
saying,
it is.
I'm just
I
showing the
don't.
parallel. Like, you can
Sure.
have the hero who we've already grown attached to become the martyr, essentially, to influence the next generation. But when you take away the only constant, the only thing that has kept someone grounded, you let them, it's like a kite, right? A kite's drifting in the wind and you're there grounding it. If you're not there, the kite just floats away.
I think that, you know, it's the principles he learns. That's why we come to know that phrase so well. With great power comes great responsibility. They did what needed to be done. I think it's like, what if, you know, there was one with Peter being freaking Doctor Strange. It's like any diehard true to the comic fan could say, oh, they can't do that. But it's like,
well, no. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, to me, like, there's a whole bunch of ways you can do a lot of things and still honor the essence of a character. Like, the story doesn't have to be the same in order for the essence of the character to still be there. Like, everybody
do you think they
knows.
did that with Tom Holland's? Do you think they did that with Tom Holland's
in Killing Aunt May? I think they altered the essence.
I mean, in general, do you think they brought in the element of having that motherly figure in Peter's life?
No, essentially, I was on the fence with Spider-Man and what Marvel was trying to show us as the essence of Spider-Man, because he was essentially Iron Man Jr. He was effectively Iron Man Jr. And in
which
them,
you
and how they
disagreed,
introduced
right?
him,
You didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't like that because they took away everything about Spider-Man that made him Spider-Man. He was the epitome of by the bootstraps. He did everything for himself by himself. And then that made him into the strong, reliable character that he'd become. But when they brought him into the MCU, they brought him in on the coattails of Iron Man. So it's like he didn't have to make his own his first costume that he used. Like, granted, he had the makeshift one, but I mean, like, he gets this nanotech, high-tech suit given to him, and then everything
like Parker,
exactly everything is just given to him. He doesn't have to earn anything. And it kind of took away the essence of what the character was. And I really didn't like that. But when they killed Tony off, and then we see him in Far From Home, and he's dealing with the aftermath and the ramifications of being the next Iron Man, like, it's a huge responsibility thrust on him. I started to see a glimmer of what Spider-Man was. This guy who's got, you know, the world, the burden, like the who's got the world on his shoulder, the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he's got to somehow navigate through it. And I was like, okay, I'm really digging this now. And then in this one, I thought that it was great because he can't turn to an Avenger essentially to fight his battle. Granted, he turned to Doctor Strange initially, but there's no help essentially for him. He's got to do it by himself. And then they brought in the other Peters. I thought that was great because it sticks with the essence of the character. He's getting it done technically by himself. Granted, there's two different versions of him. It's still Peter Parker dealing with the situation. He doesn't have reinforcements in the Avengers or the X-Men or the Fantastic Four. This is a Spider-Man problem, and Spider-Man has to deal with it. So I thought that in that they were really getting back to the essence of what the character was. And then they killed Aunt May. And now it's like, okay, what does he have? Yeah, he has the lessons.
I think she did what she had to do. You know what? That's my whole thing. In that universe, she was there for 3 movies. He didn't have Uncle Ben. Not even just 3 movies. Like, also, again, back to Civil War, back to the Avengers. You know, I love what they did with this Aunt May. I really do. And I was sad when she died. But I think she served her purpose. I really do.
She was obviously in it more than any other Aunt May, right? And like, I agree with both of your stakes, and I'll say, for the sake of the combination of the two, like, because Aunt May is now dead, I think the Peter Parker that we want to see, well, I say we want to see, but like subjectively, right? The Peter Parker that is more so from the comic book continuity will probably finally get, because he has no one, right? There's
it leaves a what if.
Like, I don't see that. Like, I feel like this now is a what if. Like, we're in uncharted territory with Spider-Man because he doesn't have anything. He's literally like
happen.
on his own.
So
And you got to also take into consideration he's a 17-year-old kid who is thrust into adulthood, not just adulthood, but superheroing. And he has no one to help him. Like you've
That's
seen
fucking badass.
well, if you think about it from just like look at it from a real life perspective, like a 17-year-old kid who has to become like say emancipated. He has nobody but himself, or he grew up in the system.
Power.
It's going to be a strain on him. Like the system's already set up against him. But now you got a 17-year-old kid who's in that situation, but he's also got superpowers. Like, who's going to tell him, hey, don't rob a, like, yeah, there was a bank robbery. Stop that. Oh, you got to make rent. There's a little bit of money. I can take that. Like, he doesn't have like a constant, Jiminy Cricket, essentially, like a constant conscience reminder to do good. Like, and it's a slippery slope, like how Andrew Garfield was saying. He stopped pulling his punches. When he lost everything, he had nothing to really hold back for. He had nothing to protect. So when you don't have that, it becomes a slippery slope as to you can go down the wrong path relatively fast. And being that strong and having that much power, like, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I have a question, because I think moving on to the future, we don't know when we'll get another Spider-Man movie, because they've already laid the groundwork out. I think through 2023, so we might not get another Spider-Man until 2024 at the earliest, right?
Yeah.
There's time. It depends how far ahead they want to jump. We know. I think it's safe to say that Tom Holland, Peter Parker will, again, if he's going the line we think he's going, and he'll probably get a job at the Daily Bugle, start doing that type of work, which is more of what we know from Spider-Man's past. I almost want to say, and I part of me believes that there's something is going to happen with some of these other movies, particularly Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness, and then Quantumania with Ant-Man and the Wasp, because of the Kang's involvement, and the multiverses are going to shit. I almost think something is going to happen, and that some people are going to remember. And so someone in particular, I don't know who, right? And that, like, maybe D, like we were saying, maybe because of the involvement of Daredevil, maybe he becomes like that bromance sort of like grounding, like, hey Daredevil, why don't you kill these people or anything like that? Like they could set something up that way, but I agree, like something has to happen for him to not go full throttle and essentially, like, because if they do the black suit symbiote correctly, and efficiently, he goes dark. Someone needs to be there to be like, Spidey man, I know you. This isn't you. We gotta snap you out of it. And maybe that's, again, whoever it is, whoever's involved in it.
Gwen Stacy. I think they'll bring back. I think it'll either be time for Gwen Stacy or maybe Liz Allen will show up again, because remember, she left at the end of Homecoming with her mom.
She did.
And if they do a time skip, they could meet again, and Liz could become like his new girlfriend. But I think that the next person to officially ground him, it's probably going to be Gwen Stacy. Like I think it's going to be Gwen Stacy.
I think there's going to be a time skip. I think Gwen's going to come into it. I think he'll already have been established, like working at the Daily Bugle. He's already kind of going through the struggles of like trying to make rent and trying to like be an adult. Maybe he's 19, 20 years old. Like, I don't know if Tom Holland can grow any facial hair by that point, but probably not. Like, he'll be 30 and he'll have less hair than all three of us. So, I mean, it's fine, but sorry, Tom. So let's talk really quickly about the possibilities. So one of the things, actually, I have two things. One of the things you said, D, actually made me think about something, especially with Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man 1, where he almost went to that extent of killing Goblin if May would have died. And I wonder at the end of No Way Home, when Tom was giving Willem fists for days, and just as he was about to stab him, I wonder if like we don't see the POV from Tobey, but I wonder if the reason why Tobey jumped in there was because I was in that spot. You lost
Mhm.
Aunt May. I almost did, and I would have done the same thing, but she stopped me, and I need to stop you. Like I think that's
Yeah.
why he did that. And I don't think just until now it actually clicked for me to like, oh shit, I wonder if that's it, because it very well could be. And if it was, that's fucking genius.
I felt that as well when I saw it. I was like, okay, obviously it's going to be Tobey who jumps in to stop him because it's Tobey's enemy.
Villain. Yeah, yeah.
And again, like I said, he was in that same situation. He was going to kill Norman.
Yep.
If it wasn't for him talking to Aunt May in the hospital, he would have killed Norman. And and Tobey jumps in to stop Tom because Tom doesn't have anybody to tell him, listen, we've been there, you know, we felt the pain, we understand, but this is not the right thing to do. You're a good person, and to live with those ideals that your Uncle Ben told you about, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. Tom has nobody to tell him this anymore. Aunt May's dead. He has nobody to talk him down. And I think Tobey realizes that, you know, Aunt May died. You've got nobody else. I've been in your shoes. Let me help you deal with this. So
Yeah.
I really like I said, there were a lot of nuances in the movie that I found really, really, really welcoming.
Yeah, and obviously I know the theater erupted when he gets stabbed, and I was like, I swear to God, if they kill Tobey Maguire in this movie, I'm going to be fucking furious. And I'll make a video raging about how they fucked up on this part.
I loved how they made it funny. They're like, I get stabbed all the time.
I'm like, you know, I mean, in the comics, like he got his ass kicked and close to death, you know, a few occasions.
Yeah, quite.
So, you know, I mean, like I was like, he can't be dead now. He survived worse. I was like trying to convince myself. I'm like, remember the comics, Nick. Remember the source material. It's okay. But like people were like, he can't die. Like, please, Tobey, no. But one other thing we need to talk about is the most powerful man in the MCU that we know up to this point is Stephen Strange, and somehow he gets outwitted by a 17-year-old kid. Let's just talk about it real quick. No, that was the only thing that we talked a little bit off screen about it. Just we understand why it happened, because it like we needed to you know control X Doctor Strange out of the clip, and then control VM back in, and in that time segment was just enough time for Peter for his plan to work, because that's when Strange comes back and he's like, oh my God, like he's actually pulling it off. He's actually helping these villains, you know, get back to their normal selves, right? Like he reverts the Lizard. Sandman gets back to human form. We already like Doc Ock has already been saved. He was the first one. Jamie Foxx's Electro's power is controlled. And for real quick on Jamie Foxx as well, sometimes with the effects they gave him the old Electro look, which is
when he
fantastic.
used the electricity, I loved it. Yeah,
fantastic. I love that. And of course, again, he had some of the best lines, especially the conversations between him and Andrew.
Dude, hold on though. When he first shows up and he's like, "We gonna stand here like I'm not butt ass naked," that had the theater laughing.
I was waiting for that to happen. Like, I was like, "Is no one gonna comment?" And about how he just being butt ass naked in that part, because like they're just standing there talking for like a good minute, and I'm like, okay, but of course, he again, it's like he's inevitably setting up Miles, right,
dude? It made me like I love as a black man when I was watching that back and forth, and he's like, he's like, now that I'm sitting here, I'm seeing your face, and you helping all the poor people. He's like, I thought you were black. I could not stop dying. I thought it was the funniest shit. Period. Like,
especially him from being from Queens and everything.
Yeah, he's like, you from Queens,
Yeah,
I thought you were black.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious. But yes, definitely set up Miles.
Great dialogue again. Like I think the dialogue in its entirety was great. There obviously some campy parts, like like the
Scooby-Doo, let's
please
Scooby-Doo this
Scooby-Doo
shit.
this shit. Yeah, like
That was so
I was like,
bad.
I can't. That was probably the most cringiest line in
God.
the whole film. But yeah, like it didn't make sense. And I know there's a meme that was posted online about Doctor Strange being a top tier elite brain surgeon, but also being the sorcerer. Well, I guess Wong is technically the sorcerer supreme,
Yeah.
but still, Strange is still more powerful than Wong is.
Yeah.
Most powerful being on Earth right now. Well, even though the Eternals are there, so. But anyway, he gets outwitted by simple geometry in the Mirrorverse, where he is in total control. It's the one part it's like plot armor, and again, it's one of those things where I get it. It's Spider-Man's movie. Strange had a purpose of being in there to kind of have the whole multiverse thing, come apart, then be put back together. I've seen some of the videos out there that talk about and you can kind of see when there's the ripplings of like the purple, like, tearing in the sky, and there's like these white figures that are made to be super ambiguous. And I've seen some pretty outlandish things like, oh my God, that's so and so, and that's so and so. And I'm just like, I feel like you're all reaching real hard, like, because none of those people are actually exist yet, or might not exist, period.
I mean, that's the beauty of all the characters all the people who knew Peter Parker's identity being brought to that universe, because it didn't matter if they existed in this universe. We know that they exist in a different universe, and they could be brought to us.
Yeah. So, but again, Strange is the one to fix it as well. So his involvement was necessary. Although, as Strange also points out, you didn't call them. And him getting denied from MIT, he didn't go to Aunt May for that either. Like, hey, Aunt May, what should I do? He's like,
he's like,
I'm gonna go to a
wipe
wizard.
everybody's memory.
Yeah, like, you didn't try and call, you didn't try to plead, which obviously he saved the
head of admissions.
He saved her life.
Yeah.
And which then it paid off, and after, like, at some point, at the end, but things were already erased by that point. But those are my only things that, again, not super complaints.
That's the comedy.
It's the
comedy aspects
nitpicking.
of it.
Yeah, like,
they brought some comedy elements. Like he could have called. He didn't have to go to Doctor Strange to have everybody wipe his. But I think it's like I think from Stephen Strange's mind, it's like he's not seeing Parker as this young kid. He's looking at Parker as, you just helped me save the whole fucking universe with the Avengers. Yeah, I could help Spider-Man. What do you need? And then it's like, after doing that, I think you realize like the absurdity of what the fuck, dude. What, like, this could affect everything. You don't even understand the repercussions, kid. You want me to do what because of fucking school? You didn't even call. And it's like, I think that's just the, yes, it's absurd. Yes, it's like cringe, but it gives it content. It gives it, something other than just fighting and seeing the old villains and the nostalgia. And it gave it more. And yes, you're right. Stephen Strange, that's his dimension. How is it that a 17-year-old kid could shoot his webs, and now all of a sudden he's restrained?
My question is, my question is, and I feel like this is the element. This has got to be the elephant in the room. Like, if you are a Spider-Man fan in general, how long the webbing actually lasts. Do you know how long the webbing? Like, they've actually
2
stated
hours.
Exactly 2 hours, right? Doctor Strange is hanging in the mirror dimension for 12 hours. Even if time stands still, right? 2 hours in whatever dimension should still, like, the webbing, it's still, the rules of the webbing still equate to this world, right? And granted, in the MCU, they never talked about how long the webbing lasts. right?
Yeah.
They never said it. So they leave it ambiguous. But every Spider-Man fans knows that his webbing dissolves after 2 hours. That's the way he designed it, so that
Right.
it couldn't be used later on. So he didn't have to worry about cleaning up a crime scene or whatever because it'd be gone, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
His web should have broken down and Doctor Strange should have been gone. Like, so say
Yeah.
the world, like say even if time goes slower in the mirror dimension than it does in the real world, or say it goes faster, like 2 hours in the real world, the webbing should have been done. Like he should have been able to come back. And I thought that was really, I was like, wow, that's definitely a plot hole. Because
We can
if they're
nitpick
saying
at
his
it,
webbing
you know,
doesn't dissolve, this man is literally leaving webbing everywhere. Like it's
Yeah.
all over the world.
For a long time. Yeah.
and we know it does dissolve. It does. That's why it's like, even I think it's funny when they see Toby's, where it's like, wait, you don't
Yeah.
have web fluid, you know, it comes out of you. Where else does it come out of? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, and they were able to really, like, because that's another, you know, Sam Raimi's
Yeah.
Spider-Man, that's super original. You know, that's nothing to
Notorious
do
for
with
the
comics.
organic web shooters. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the web suit, the iconic web suit, that's my favorite suit. You know, I thought it always looked super cool, and it's not even true to the comics. It's original. It's the first live action, and that's why when people were hating on Tobey, and you know, I always say it's like it's the Nickelback feel. You look at the movie, and it's like, oh, they're so corny as fuck. It's just like, what did you just say? But
Yeah.
you still appreciate it, you know. And
Yeah.
I even think they did a good job of portraying Tobey, where he was still kind of like that same, like
Yeah.
it's like he just really came out of that universe. I think there was a lot of plot holes, but I think there was also a lot of continuity. You know, a plot hole being that they were pulled at different. Okay, is it a plot hole or is it a continuity thing? I think it's it can be argued that they were each villains, and the Spider-Man, they were each pulled out from their own individual moments. Like Andrew Garfield pulled out at his own moment way after all the events of Gwen dying and all that, whereas the Lizard, he's pulled out of the first movie, and then Doc Ock, the second movie, before he decided to be heroic, like right when he's, you know, choking Spidey.
As far as continuity goes, they explain that they were all pulled out. So, like, I guess the trailer did a better job of explaining it than the movie did, because if you watch the original trailer, like Doctor Strange talks about how they're all fated to die by Spider-Man.
Right.
They were all pulled into that universe before their death.
Right.
So, but my thing is, they were saying that it was all people who knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. If I remember correctly, Sandman did know, but Max Dillon, Jamie Foxx's Electro, didn't know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
No, yeah, you're right. So that's a great example of, there's a continuity issue. But I also, like, you know, I saw a meme where they're like, the Sinister Six is 5 plus a tree, you know, because they pulled the tree into the room. And you know, they could have definitely
cousin
done.
That's evil.
Oh yeah, they could have done a true Sinister Six, and they didn't. And you know, there are little things that I think, you know.
I mean, it wouldn't have made sense though, because the Vulture's locked away in the raft, you know, so they can't be the Sinister Six, and the rest of them don't know who the Vulture is.
I thought they were going to introduce a new villain, but yeah, like, yeah.
The only the only person they could have really substituted the Vulture with is Kraven. We don't have a Kraven the Hunter yet, so. But apparently, Aaron Taylor Johnson is signed on to be Kraven. So, yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, that is one of my favorite matchups in Spidey comics.
Oh, Kraven the Hunter, yeah.
Kraven, man, oof.
I like Kraven.
He is not to be trifled with.
Hammerhead, man, that's I love Hammerhead.
Like, I mean, listen, I honestly think we could, you know, and I wouldn't be mad about it, to, again, like talking about the future, you know, seeing Kingpin really start to give, you know, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, you know, a run for his money about everything. You know, I know for the sake of, you know, building like the Spider Hunters, or
so much.
or even getting Hobgoblin introduced. You know,
I mean,
Yeah.
we got Ned Leeds already.
I know.
Yo,
I
we could get
100%. I
Black
think that Ned's going to
Felicia.
become Hobgoblin.
I think so too, and they
Yo,
especially
I
set it
like
up. They
that.
set it up because like even in the, when Andrew Garfield was saying, or no, Toby was saying, "Oh yeah, well, my best friend tried to kill me."
Yeah,
You
and
know?
he's
And
like,
he's like,
Peter,
set it
I'll
up.
never try and kill you.
Yeah,
And
I'm
everyone
like,
just looked at him like,
you might be
That's
speaking too
foreshadowing.
soon, bruh.
Yeah.
So
because
listen,
it happened to Toby and it happened to Andrew, their best friend. Because in Amazing Spider-Man 2, we get Harry Osborn comes back and
Yep.
he becomes the
then
Goblin
remember-
and tries to kill him. So
Yep.
And then there was also, they didn't, because we didn't get the third movie, in Amazing Spider-Man 2, they even introduced Felicia, which could have been, we could have been seeing
I
Black
feel like
Cat.
if they bring in the Kingpin, Felicia Hardy will probably be the next love interest because she has
Yes.
significant ties to the Kingpin.
Yes,
And
I
if
agree.
Spider-Man's like Breaking Bad, then Felicia is definitely the best character to bring in to break bad with.
very,
Right,
very true.
exactly. Like if he gets the symbiote, so that's what I mean. They've really left a lot of stuff open,
Yeah.
and that's why, as a fan, I could appreciate it because it's like, yes, there's an unknown, but I think that's what makes me as a fan excited because
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to go into it thinking I know what it is. I want to be shocked. I want to be shook. I want to be surprised. I want to run for my money, and I want as much content. I want more I want more of the Miles Morales universe. I'd love to see a live action of Miles Morales. They can do it.
Yeah.
Not only did they set it up for Ned's Hobgoblin, but I think Jamie Foxx's, that line is like, why can't they bring in a Black Spider-Man?
Well, they already talked about Miles. We know Miles exists because if you go back to Homecoming, he meets Aaron Davis in Donald Glover, who is the Prowler.
Yep.
He's Miles' uncle. So, and he talks about, I got a nephew that lives around here.
Yep.
So we know that Miles
what if
exists.
They kill off Tom.
I think that would happen, but it would be really interesting if they killed off Tom in the new trilogy. Like if he gets killed off in the first movie of the new trilogy, that would be really interesting.
That would fit. That would fit Tom's. I don't want to play Spider-Man past 30 bullshit.
Exactly. So I think there's just so much that it's a great time to be a Marvel fan, not just for Spider-Man.
I'll say one other thing, because again, see what you guys would think about this, because they could essentially do 4, 5, and 6 Spider-Man, right? And then like I don't know what they would do for like a conglomeration of like an Avengers movie, because I would like to see an Avengers movie with a matured Tom Holland Spider-Man, at least one.
I think you will,
but
New Avengers.
Yeah, and I think for the sake of what people are asking about Amazing Spider-Man 3 with Andrew Garfield, they could do that separately, or they could do like 4, 5, and 6 is could be technically, here's another one with Tom Holland, who is more grown up and experienced, and as we last saw him, 5 could be Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man 3, that's post No Way Home, and then 6 could be in the introduction of Miles, in like actually in the MCU, like again, maybe not have met Spider-Man yet, but actually seeing him, or maybe he has, right? Like they could go either way. And then the new Avengers happens, Spider-Man's there, and maybe again it would be a big gut wrench, but to see Tom Holland's character die in an Avengers movie, like
imagine Tom Holland dies. Tom Holland Spider-Man dies how we saw Iron Man die and affected Tom. Tom dies and affects Miles,
Yeah, right. And then like he passes the baton, and like they play it like the Spider-Man games. In my opinion, I think the Miles Morales game shits on the first game, and that's a very rare. Like I don't know typically say that for sequels. I don't.
I've played both of them numerous times. Miles, like I love the little intricacies. Like if you look at the character animations and the movements, Peter's more refined and Miles is more kind of reckless, but he fits
more to the spider role.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah, and it's natural. I like how they brought in the 21st century. Like he'll be free falling. He's on his fucking phone or text, and it's just like to see that in a live action would be super cool. I it's just it's a great time to be a fan, and I'm not so much as like oh, this versus this, or this is better. I appreciate having more and more. Like to this day, I'm 25 and I'll fucking go on Disney Plus, and because I want to watch something that is related to Spider-Man, I'll just rewatch the fucking animated series. I watch Spider-Woman, and the shit's fucking corny as shit, but I'll watch it because it's like.
So recommendations. I mean, I've watched every episode of Spider-Man the animated series numerous times. Spectacular Spider-Man is actually really good, and so is Ultimate Spider-Man. They're actually both really good.
Yeah.
I think I really enjoyed Ultimate, and I think I can't remember. I enjoyed one of them more than the other, and then they canceled it. Yeah.
I didn't like how it was too short with Ultimate. It was good. I liked how I like those variations of Venom and Carnage when they're like together and they're evil, and it's not, it's different, but again, they canceled that off though. So
wait, you're talking about Spider-Man Unlimited.
Yeah,
he has the nano. I hated that one, dude, because it was supposed to be a direct sequel to the animated series, but I hated it. I hated the animation. I hated that they took Peter to some alternate world and like Venom and Carnage. Oh, I hated it so much. I tried.
It wasn't my favorite, but it's still like, that's what I mean. I'm one of those fans that you just give me all the Spider-Man you can, and I'll read it, watch it all, and I can appreciate it. And yeah, I have favorites over some, but I won't say I'm not a diehard fan to the point where I'm going to badger one over the other.
No. So there is one version. So like I've seen. I can honestly say I think I've seen every variation of Spider-Man that's come out, with the exception of the Indian movie. The Indian Spider-Man, I haven't seen that. But
what? There's an Indian Spider-Man?
Yeah.
See,
Google it.
I don't think I want to.
But
I'm just
like
kidding.
even way back in the 80s, they had like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And it was Spider-Man, Firestorm, and Iceman, and they were in high school. And they did crazy, stupid things. Then they have like Spider-Man and Super Friends. They had a bunch of different older Spider-Man cartoons that people don't know about. And they also actually have a really old live-action Spider-Man TV series. And it was really, really bad. Like, his webbing was ropes. And he would be like crawling up the side of the bed. It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
So bad. But I watched it because, again,
you got
Spider-Man fan.
You got to see it. You got to see it, Spider-Man in its glory, and it's like
you got to take the good and the bad.
The good and the bad.
I'll say this. I'll say this in terms of good and bad. Like a lot of people, obviously, the 90s, 97 X-Men cartoons that aired at the same time as Meeting Spider-Man, right?
I love those.
No, great, amazing, right? Like, I mean, for those who haven't seen my leg. Anyway, but who remembers the VHS tape of the 1994 animated movie with X-Men? Like, Dazzler was in it. Wolverine had a British accent, and he had the orange and red suit. For those of you watching, leave a comment below if you've seen that, because not many people do. The only people that I do, like me, Darnell, our boy Charles, and people in our group know about it. But I haven't met a lot of people outside of us that have actually seen that tape and know what I'm talking about, because that, like, I went back and watched it. It's on YouTube. If I can find it, I'll even post a link in the description below. But I went back and watched it, and I was like, holy shit, this is terrible, but I fucking love it still. For some reason, I love it. Like, Magneto's in it. He's obviously the villain, but like, it's so just out there,
absurd and
corny
and
like
just, you got to appreciate it.
It's
you got to. It's because it was there. That is nostalgia.
Well, it's kind of like on Disney Plus. You go on Disney Plus, there's a bunch of old. There's like the Silver Surfer.
I remember that cartoon came on in the 90s.
Yeah, and
they had. So I think they had two different variations of the Fantastic Four cartoon.
Yep.
They had an Iron Man cartoon that ran one season. Then the second season, it was really dark. Like, because in the first Iron Man, it had like a bunch of the Avengers cast. Hawkeye was there, Ant-Man, a bunch of other characters, and then in like the second season and beyond, like, he had a falling out with the rest of the team. He had like super long hair. He had got injured, so it was like and am like it played that song in the opening intro.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was
Iron Man.
they had the old Hulk cartoon. Do you guys remember the old Hulk movies? There were TV
Oh
movies. So
gosh.
with Bruce Bixby, or not whatever his name, where he was Bruce Bixby, not Bruce Banner.
Yes.
Lou Ferrigno played him.
Lou Ferrigno, yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Lou
So
Ferrigno,
they had
yeah.
movies. I don't know if
OG.
you guys remember. They had movies. They had one
Yeah.
movie where the Hulk, or not the Hulk, Thor was in it. It was Hulk versus Thor. It was I can't remember the guy's name. He played Thor. It was god awful. But then there's also
those
one where
movies were
Daredevil's in it.
terrible.
I don't think I
Those
saw that
movies were
one.
The one
terrible.
with Daredevil or the one with the Hulk, or with Thor.
I don't think I saw the one with Daredevil. I saw the one with Thor, but
The one with Daredevil was my favorite of the Hulk TV movies, dude. It was dope. Like he was wearing the black costume, like how Charlie Cox was wearing in at the beginning of the Netflix series.
yeah,
That's the suit he was wearing.
Okay.
He was a blind lawyer, Matt Murdock. He was getting Bruce Bixby off, like because he was on trial for murder or something, and he was his lawyer. And like there was a scene where he shows up, he's wearing the full Daredevil gear or whatever, and like the villains kind of catch on. So like there's a scene where he's in a room and he's fighting a bunch of guys, but they turn up like a loud stereo system, and like the vibrations are like making him like all like woozy and stuff. So they like beat him up and capture him. It's really bad, but it's really good.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, not to go off on a tangent, but the one part I remember in the Lou Ferrigno movie, he like throws a bear like 100 yards or some shit like that.
Dude,
like,
it was so ridiculous.
It was so ridiculous. You just see this bear flying as it like the whole gets it like.
Oh
god!
Did you see the Jack Black video where he like dressed up as like the Hulk and like
yeah
it was like that,
Yeah, it was
so bad.
that was like Lou Ferrigno level cheese.
Let's spray green body paint on me and make a movie about this.
I'm
a bodybuilder, right?
D level movie. Yeah.
Hey, but it's there for the history books. We get to say
it's old. Exactly. This is like it's old level material from like Marvel history that it was attempted to create things that people hoped at that time they would like, and I'm sure there are people out there who actually like those movies, which is totally fine. But compared to like what we have now, it's complete night and day. Yeah, like it's hard to make the comparison. I mean, but I know we've been going at it for quite some time now. So what I'm probably gonna do is, as I listen through this and edit, I'm gonna have to put time markers in there for all of our talking points, because I feel like we did cover a lot, from movies all over Spider-Man to extra stuff to what's to come in the future, like tie-ins with video games and everything, which I think people need to listen to, even if they don't need to watch us, just work and listen to us at that point. But so we'll wrap it up here. If you've listened to everything, it's greatly appreciated. I think this is a fantastic conversation with the three of us. I really enjoyed it, and it's almost 2 a.m. here for Alex and I, which I don't care, because I could literally talk about this stuff days, and Darnell and I have talked about this stuff till 6 o'clock in the morning in parking lots. So
God, yes, we have.
We're no strangers to long conversations about Marvel and DC and Dragon Ball Z and everything else. But so if you're watching this, do me a huge solid, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share with your friends, share with your family, and guys, you want to say anything else on our way out?
Thanks for having me. Of
course. Yes. Give a round of applause to my two friends and guests here. They were great.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it was super fun, guys. Really appreciate both of you for taking the time to conversate with me about this, and put this out there for fans and followers and nerds alike. So until next time, I'll catch you all on the next video. Cheers, everyone.
Later.